Alright, what's up everybody? It's TruthForce here, and today I just wanted to do something just a little bit different. So, as I'm sure you're all aware, Skyward Sword HD was just announced, and I really wanted to just talk about it and see what was up. So I reached out to fellow Zeldatuber Zeldom to see if he wanted to talk about it, and sure enough he did. So, yeah, this next 40 minutes is just us discussing it. I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, so how do you think the game looks? Just because, like, some people seem to think it looks, like, a lot better than the original, and some people seem to think it looks basically the same.
Well, I don't know, because it's kind of really hard to say, because that trailer they gave, or not, it wasn't even a trailer, it was almost just a cutscene compilation. Do we even know if that's even from Skyward Sword HD? I'm assuming they're going to make a few changes like they did with Twilight Princess HD, even though a lot of people say Twilight Princess was still the same. But I think, at least in my turn, just with me watching the live stream, I don't know if it was just the quality of the stream, but yeah, to me it just looked like it was the same resolution, so I'm not quite sure what to expect. But
it didn't look.
Sorry, go ahead.
It didn't look that much. It didn't look that much better to me, like when watching the stream. But then I went back and watched Game Explain's side by side comparison. And if you actually, watch the video in, the full resolution, the 1080p HD, it's, I don't know if they, intentionally, when they got the footage for their own Wii one, when they were doing, the sword swinging demonstrations and stuff, I don't know if they intentionally made it look as bad as possible for the Wii one, but the difference was definitely noticeable.
Yeah. I know when I'm editing my videos, I use, footage from ZorZelda's YouTube channel, where he does his... I think he uses emulators to upsample the graphics for a lot of the games.
Yeah.
So I use his for Skyward Sword, which, honestly, I don't know if the emulator is going to look better than Skyward Sword HD or not. But
honestly, I don't know. I guess I'll have to wait till the game comes out.
Yeah, I'm just going to assume Skyward Sword HD is going to look like what it does in ZorZelda's videos. I know Twilight Princess HD, they did increase the resolution of some of the textures. If you use an emulator for Twilight Princess on the Wii, you can still tell there's a difference between the textures in Twilight Princess HD versus the emulator edition of the Wii, but overall the resolution is pretty similar, so we'll have to see. I'm still going to assume Nintendo's going to add in a couple of extra changes and features other than the button controls.
I know that a couple of textures have been changed, but the trailer didn't really give us a whole lot. I think his name's Kryzen. He said that the textures on Zelda's braids were changed, which I mean is a very minor change.
Yeah, as long as they add in a bunch of details.
At least it's something. If they just detail stuff more, I feel like that'd be really nice.
Yeah, what more can we expect?
I mean, the game never really looked bad, considering it's a Wii exclusive rather than GameCube, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because Nayru mentioned it in his last video how they needed to update the lighting engine on Wind Waker, just because it came out earlier.
Yeah.
But by the time Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword came out, they'd fixed all that stuff and made it look a lot better. So just because the game doesn't look a whole lot different doesn't mean it needed to look a whole lot different.
Yeah, agreed. But one thing I know with Skyward Sword is the rendering is kind of a bit off. Some things just, when you're looking out in the sky, islands off in the distance, they're just too blurry. Even things up close, they're just blurred a little bit too much. I don't know if it was just due to the resolution, but I think that was an intentional feature just to help with save memory with the render distance, because looking out in the sky, I think I wouldn't say render distance, but items would pop in much further out than they would in Wind Waker, for example. But even in Wind Waker with the GameCube, everything was still pretty darn blurred for the GameCube. So it was nice to see the Wind Waker HD fix that, but that's going to be my main thing I hope for with the Skyward Sword HD, is just that it's not so blurred when you're looking out. Because I can tell that's the main issue using the emulated version of Skyward Sword. When the emulator is trying to upsample the graphics, sometimes it can cause those blurs to create little shadow figures, or kind of like a silhouette around these figures. So if you're looking at the cutscenes, sometimes you'll see a little yellow glow around Zelda or something in the cutscenes, just because of that emulator upsampling. But so I think it'll be nice to see Skyward Sword without that kind of character glow around them, just due to the upsample.
I actually think I saw something like that on Twitter. I don't know if it's exactly what you're talking about, but for farther away objects, they have there's like some sort of painted filter
Yeah.
that basically makes them look almost like an illusionist painting or something, like where you can tell what it is, but it's just a little bit more blurry and just kind of like almost seems like just a painting in the background rather than actual objects.
Yeah.
I think the tweet compared the two, and it's like it showed the differences, and it was definitely a lot clearer, but it still had like almost like a paint splotch effect.
Trying to think of any other changes that they might be making to Skyward Sword HD. I really haven't put too much thought into about it. I probably should have before I came on here, but
Yeah, you're good. I'm just wondering, like, are they gonna add any new content? Because the thing said it was like amiibo compatible. So, like, are they gonna do something like that? I think it's the Cave of Shadows from Twilight Princess HD.
oh, Cave of Ordeals. Yeah, the
Whatever
Cave of
it's called.
Ordeals. That's correct.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think they really added in too many more like extra mini games or features, but I'm really hoping they do. Because if you look at the Link's Awakening remake that came out in 2019, they added that what's it called? But the kind of create your own dungeon, kind of almost an experimental Zelda maker type of thing with Dampe.
Did they?
Yes.
Did they advertise that in like the trailers and stuff, or was that just something players saw when they?
I honestly don't know. I was actually not paying attention to anything Zelda back in 2019 when this was announced, because I became a Zelda fan like back in 2014. I played it. I love Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess. Played a few games back then, but then I just stopped focusing on Zelda for a few years and just came back early 2020. So I really wasn't paying attention when Link's Awakening was announced and coming back. I just got it this last Christmas, so I'm about halfway through the game at the moment, but. I don't know. I don't know if Skyward Sword is going to do that or not. I'm really hoping that they do try to implement some things. I don't think Twilight Princess or the Wind Waker remakes. I don't think those implemented anything new, but I do know they added more detail to the cutscenes and such. Because one detail I noticed between Twilight Princess and the HD version was when in that cutscene where Ilia regains her memories, where she's talking about she remembers the scent of hay and she says your name Link, and then you see a teardrop roll down her cheek, which was not in the original version. Just small details like that. I'm hoping they add, because Skyward Sword does have some very emotional moments.
Yes, please give Link actual tears in the Zelda crystallized cutscene.
Yes, because I know, because they only showed him for a split second crying, but you knew he was crying, but you couldn't see tears necessarily roll down, but you could see his face. You know he was crying. Yeah. So I hope they add stuff like that to it.
So the game runs in 60 FPS, right?
Yeah.
And when he was looking at the bow and the trailer and the textures trailing the bow, the white texture that follows the bow actually only moves apparently 30 frames per second, while the actual arrow moves at 60 frames per second. So it seems like they haven't updated all of the they haven't updated everything or made everything run natively at 60 frames per second.
Yeah, maybe they just copy-pasted the code and forgot to change that, who knows. I mean, they're kind of known to do that.
I mean, they have till July still, so who knows? They've probably still got stuff they're working on, which is why it's coming out so much later than they announced it.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'm not even going to say trailer, because it almost looks like they just took cutscenes and snippets from the original game and just used that to announce Skyward Sword HD and just slapped the new logo with the HD icon on it.
The new HD logo actually looks really nice.
Yes, it does look very nice. My point is, I don't know if those cutscenes they were showing, everything they showed us was from the HD, is from going to be the HD version of the game. We'll see.
I actually just remembered what I was talking about that I forgot. So Jonas said that in the original file of Skyward Sword was 4 gigabytes or something like that, and this new one's 7. But the problem with the old one is that a lot of the storage was actually just taken up by the hint movies from the Gossip Stone.
Really?
And so
okay,
if they had to manually redo or manually upscale all of those hint movies, because if they were just saved as MP4s and not actually rendered cutscenes, then you have to go and re-render them and turn them into upscaled MP4s.
Oh yeah, that would. Because I know when they're making those cutscenes, from like a developmental perspective, when they're creating those cutscenes, they usually just use, well, when they make actual game cutscenes, Nintendo tries to keep those cutscenes within the game itself to try to prevent it from looking like a totally different game. So they use the game's own camera to create those cutscenes, and they just basically take it away from behind Link, like it is when you're normally playing the game, and they just make the camera just go wherever they want to for those cutscenes. So Nintendo doesn't usually just play like an MP4 or something for a cutscene. They still keep you in the game and just take control of the camera for that time being.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think they started doing that when they were developing Ocarina of Time. Because I think a few other games, like maybe Final Fantasy or something like that, back in the day, I think they would play just normal video files instead, and obviously the graphics back then were not as great. So you can just imagine playing this game with a very blocky graphics, and all of a sudden you're watching a full-on animation. It just kind of takes away of the immersion factor from the game, because it's like you're watching your character, but then you're seeing almost an entirely different character because the graphics are so vastly different.
Honestly, I don't even know that hint movies really serve a purpose anymore. Or, like, if they could just, like, straight up remove them from Skyward Sword. Because, like, I mean, we have the internet now. Like,
yeah.
I don't think there's hint movies in Breath of the Wild, at least.
Yeah, those hint movies, like, you could almost get every secret you needed to in that game to be from those hint movies, to be honest. They would show you where to get pretty much almost every heart piece if you're at some point, if you needed to get the gratitude crystals. It was pretty much all there. And it wasn't just like the little hints. They would literally show you pre-made, basically gameplay footage of how to go get that.
Oh, really? I never really actually paid attention to the hint movies. I just kind of I don't know, I played basically the whole game blind.
Yeah, I think my first playthrough, I got this game when I was back in middle school. I think maybe 6 years ago. I think I used them my first playthrough, because, I mean, I usually don't like having to look stuff up, even if I'm in a difficult dungeon. I just feel like it kind of takes away from some of the fun of the game. I mean, obviously at some points, if there's a really difficult dungeon, we all know that one that we're thinking of, yeah, I'll go ahead and, if I need to, I'll look it up, especially with the 2D games, but Skyward Sword, I would just literally leave the dungeon. If I needed a hint, I'll take the hint. But Skyward Sword really wasn't that difficult. I think the dungeons were pretty fair. They had some good dungeons in Skyward Sword.
Yeah, I think a lot of the puzzles, yeah, they were puzzles, but at the same time, they gave you enough information to figure it out without trying to stumble around for a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, they give you some pretty clear indications, like even with just having a more depth consistent map. Like, rather than just showing you rather than just showing you the shape of the room and where the chests are in the room, it actually showed you the textures.
Oh, yes.
Which let you know where the chests would be located, if they were located underwater, or if they were, whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember now that you mention that, I can't remember how many of the 3D games actually do that. I thought they did, except for Ocarina and Majora's Mask. I know they did.
Yeah, because I just played Ocarina of Time. I just played Ocarina of Time 3D, and as far as I'm aware, as far as I remember, the dungeons were they just kind of showed you the shape of the room. Huh.
Yeah,
didn't really.
That rings a bell.
Give you a whole lot of texture.
Did Twilight Princess show you the texture? I really can't remember.
Honestly, I'm not sure.
I mean, Twilight Princess is tied for my favorite game. I go back and forth between Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess being my favorite. I love them for very different reasons, so I'm fine to say they're both my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have Twilight Princess Wii, in my room, waiting to be played, but the problem is I still have to finish Majora's Mask, Oracle of Ages, and Oracle of Seasons.
Me too. So, since I started Zeldom,
I want to get to it.
Yeah, me too. I've been playing Majora's Mask since last July. I still haven't beaten my playthrough yet. I'm in Icona Valley. I'm so close. I haven't touched it in, I think, at least 2.5 months, though. Because Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity came out. I got Link's Awakening, started that halfway through. I also started Phantom Hourglass before my Majora's Mask playthrough, and I picked that up again. So I have a lot of games I'm trying to get through at once, and with college and all, it's super busy, and trying to make videos. So we'll get there.
I mean, I think Skyward Sword was my first Zelda game. I around the same time frame as you, actually. It's probably 2014 or
Nice.
2015 maybe. I don't know. We actually saw it like just at a Best Buy or whatever. I was like, I want that. And then I think I sold the game and didn't pick up a single Zelda game until like March 2020.
Hey, that's around when I started getting back into Zelda too.
Yeah, I started watching Zelda Master. It was like, I played that old Skyward Sword game. I should see what's up with it. And so I watched Zelda Master play it through. And then I watched him play through Breath of the Wild. And I'm like, this is really fun. I should get a Switch. And then everything started spiraling from there, and now I'm really into Zelda.
So did you get your Switch right in March?
Yeah, like I got basically like the last Switch in my area, like all the Switches in my town. All the Switches in my town were completely sold out because it was like right before the pandemic started or whatever.
Yeah, I managed to get mine a month right before that, so
yeah, literally, my mom just happened to be like in the town that was like an hour out, and she got like one of the last ones, so that was interesting.
Yeah, that's perfect timing. Skyward Sword actually wasn't technically my first Zelda game. I had Spirit Tracks on the DS as a kid, like I think an elementary school kid, so I was maybe like a 4th grader or so when I think I got Spirit Tracks or something for my birthday. I'm not entirely sure, but I love Spirit Tracks. It's just that I don't know, I never really knew much about the Zelda franchise. I knew who like Link was and that there was like an entire series for Zelda, because I played Smash Bros. Melee with my cousins and such during family gatherings, so I knew like Link was a character based on young Link and Zelda from Super Smash Bros., but I didn't really know anything about them. But I remember like I had a friend who I would always go over to his house to play games with, and like he knew a ton about Zelda because he had 2 older brothers. Both of them played so many of the older Zelda games, so they played all the 2D ones, Ocarina of Time because they had an N64 and such. So they knew everything about Zelda. So I'd always see someone, like either him or his brothers, playing some Zelda game when I went over to his house. So I think I was watching them play either Twilight Princess or Link's Crossbow Training. But I just remember like seeing it, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get myself a Zelda game. So I didn't know which one they were playing, so I just looked up Zelda games for the Wii, and I saw Skyward Sword, so I bought it for like $15 on eBay. So that was my first one.
Yeah, I got mine from GameStop for $25, I think.
Oh, okay.
And then like a couple months later, the price skyrocketed to like $45 or something.
I don't know. I've never bought. I don't really ever buy stuff from GameStop. Usually just because it's a little overpriced, in my opinion, for used games.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the reason I like GameStop is just because I guess it's a bit more of a guarantee, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know you're going to be getting a game that works.
Yeah, that is one good point.
At least in my experience.
Yes, I do have one bad experience. The first copy of Twilight Princess I bought, which I totally forgot about this experience until you just brought it up, about the guarantee. But first disc I bought, apparently, I think the first year or so of copies made of Twilight Princess on the Wii, there was one very hard to notice bug, but it was pretty big. So if you remember the cannon room that launches you to the city in the sky, if you were to save the game in that cannon room, you would basically bug your entire game. So if you were to save and then start the game over, if you were to just save in that room, turn it off, and come back to it, there would be a bug where Shad would still be there, and it would be as if he would be standing there blocking the way as if you hadn't gone into that room yet. So every time you try to leave, he would block you in, so you couldn't escape the room, and the game wouldn't let you warp out either, because Midna would say, you can't warp when there's someone watching you. So you're just stuck in that room pretty much you can't get out of it. You just have to start a new file.
Soft blocked?
Yeah, so that didn't happen to me. That happened to my sister who was playing through the game. So I looked up the issue, and apparently it was just the first year of copies made had that bug. So I went back onto eBay and made sure I found a copy that came out, I think, in 2008. So I was able to just buy a new copy of the game, sell the old one, and just clarify what year it came out in, and just clarify the bug in the description for anyone who was buying, just so they didn't make that same mistake. I just put in the new copy of the game, and everything worked just fine, because the Wii, on the SD card, you just have your file save on there, so just load up the new copy of the game and bug solved. But
you know, I just realized this has been a lot of fun, but like, this was supposed to be about Skyward Sword. I think.
Yeah, then we tangent. We kind of just started talking about remakes in general, and then it went from there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of fun to talk about Zelda, though.
Oh yeah.
I guess We should probably also talk about like just the price of Skyward Sword and
yes.
just, like, Zelda remakes in general, because so many people think they're overpriced. I see people talking all the time about how you can buy Skyward Sword on the Wii U for $20 or on the Switch for $60.
Yeah, like I said, I got Skyward Sword used on my Wii for about $15 back in 2014. So, that's eBay, so that's not your normal retailer. So I understand that. I'm still willing to pay a full $60, but that's just me personally. Maybe I'm always a sucker for nostalgia, but. Yeah, I do understand. $60 for just a remade game is kind of a lot. I think it would be more understandable if it was more like a Link's Awakening remake, where it was a game that came out in '93, with the very old Game Boy graphics, but they were able to add the very modern claymation style graphics, so it looked beautiful. And they added a lot of new things too, plus the Dampe kind of mini Zelda dungeon creator minigame, if you'll say, which is actually quite a bit of fun. So if they add more kinds of like minigames and small things like that into the game, I think maybe that could justify it a little bit more. But just having the game in HD with now button controls for $60, it is kind of a lot for a remake. It probably just won't be enough of a difference in my opinion. Maybe if it was like $40, that'd be alright. 60 is kind of a lot though. But if we don't know what's going to be in it yet, so I'm going to buy it anyways. If people who don't want to risk it, I can understand that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. First thing, July 16, the first thing I'm doing is downloading Skyward Sword and then going to Walmart and picking up some of those Joy-Cons. I'm totally buying the Joy-Cons.
I want those. Those look
so nice.
I just don't know if it's going to be worth me blowing $60 on a new set of Joy-Cons just because, just for them to go bad and drift in another year and a half.
Yeah, I've actually been really lucky with my Joy-Cons not drifting. Like I've only had one pair of Joy-Cons for the entire year I've had my Switch.
Well, I bought,
and they don't have any drift on them, which is lucky.
Yeah, well, I got mine used, so like when I bought my Switch, they came with drift. I didn't know anything about Joy-Con drift at the moment, so I just thought when I was playing Breath of the Wild, my camera was drifting. I thought that was just normal. It was kind of annoying, but I thought it was normal. So I looked at the reason later. I was able to get a temporary fix, and then later I just installed like a third-party joystick, and I just took apart my Joy-Con and added in a new joystick myself and fixed it. But I've also since then ordered a second pair, so I just use those instead. And I also have a Pro Controller now. So
yeah, I got a Pro Controller too. It's just really nice to have. It's a lot more comfortable.
Yeah,
but we do have people over to our house like to play Smash Bros and whatnot. So having another pair of Joy-Cons is always nice.
Yep, I actually have just had cousins over all week long, so definitely been making use of that. But yeah, I don't know about the Joy-Cons. They look really cool. Those are probably my favorite design of the Joy-Cons yet. I don't know if I'm gonna blow $60 for just another set of Joy-Cons, because I technically already have 4. Well, 2 sets, but still.
Yeah. How do you think the button controls are gonna work? Because, like, my first instinct is that, like, when you're swinging the sword, because generally when you swing, you have to move your arm over to the left and then swing it to the right. But when you swing it with the joystick, it's just kind of like, it looked like really fast. Like, Link just kind of, like, instantly swung it to the right.
Yeah.
From, like, a standing position. And, like, I knew that was going to be a problem with trying to map it to button controls, just because, like, it was designed with motion controls, but it just looks kind of weird.
Now, based on the demonstration they gave, it kind of looks like they have it Link's sword automatically go just into the centered or thrusting position, but depending on I think it just automatically, whenever you use that right joystick, I think it'll just automatically position it and then do the slash. But that's just my impression. No, I'm assuming you just press down on the joystick to do the thrust.
Yeah. They didn't show, like how are you supposed to do, like, a Skyward Strike or a spin attack, or... Like,
I'm assuming that's just going to be, like, a trick. Yeah, I'm assuming that's just going to be a trigger, or you just, probably just move the joystick around in a circle. I think that...
Like, what if they had, say L was was a Skyward Strike or whatever, or, like, holding L down, like gave you the Skyward Charge or whatever, and then, like, if while you were holding L, you swung your joystick in a certain direction, that would do a spin attack or whatever.
Yeah, because, you can always do a Skyward Strike in any kind of direction. with any kind of sword attack, so they'd have to map it out with a certain button instead of that right joystick. I don't think it really matters like what button it's mapped to. Plus, I think they might allow you to remap some controls. I think in some of their latest games, I think they've been able to allow you to remap certain controls to different buttons. I think. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. I mean, worst case scenario, you can just remap them in the Switch Home menu.
Yeah, and if you have a...
I did that for Breath of the Wild, because having to hold down B and X at the same time was getting kind of annoying when I wanted to, like, sprint and then jump.
Oh, yeah.
And so I actually mapped the sprint button to holding down the left joystick.
And even so, we could still play, if people wanted to use their Pro Controllers, which has the 2 extra buttons, I think, on the bottom for... Yeah, just for any kind of extra custom controls, you can use that too. I mean, the Pro controllers are obviously limited to the button controls because they don't enable or allow for support the motion, but still, if people who want to play with the button control, the Pro controller is going to be super helpful because you can, if they do support using the custom controls, that the Pro controller is going to be super helpful for that.
Do you think if the button, like, with the button controls, do you think they're gonna, like, have gyro controls for the bow and the beetle and stuff? Or do you think it'll be entirely button-based?
Oh, I think when you have just the button enabled, let's just look at it as like the Age of Calamity style control. I'm assuming they're going to manage it the same way as the Divine Beasts. When you're first using the item or something, there's probably going to be some pop-up saying you can tilt the Joy-Cons to control it, but you can also switch over to the button controls and disable the gyro. I know when I was playing Age of Calamity, I almost always disabled the gyro just because that got on my nerves, just in those cases. But
yeah, I tried the gyros for the first time, like when I did it with Mifa or whatever. But I didn't really like it, so I just switched over immediately.
My thing was, like, sometimes I was just playing it in bed, and, like, if I was trying to move around, it was just too much work when I'm laying down in bed. I don't have too much space to move, and if I do, I can't see as well, so...
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're playing up on the TV, I think gyro is probably going to be a little bit more fun. I always loved the motion controls both in Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess with just the normal swing the Wiimote type thing. I always found that just a bit more engaging and fun than just mashing a button.
Yeah, same. I really like the combat. I never had problems with my Wii Remote having bad calibration. The only thing I ever struggled with was the nunchucks that I hadn't been used in a really long time, so they didn't stick in the Wii Remote properly.
Oh yeah, mine too.
So I would almost get like Wii Remote drift, if that makes any sense.
Oh, I've had that same issue.
It would like disconnect while I was running, then reconnect, and so then the neutral position would be regarded as not neutral.
Yep.
And so Link would just start running, and I had no control.
And sometimes, yeah, I think my issue is I had third-party Wii Motion Plus. I did not have official Wii Motion Plus devices, so they did not work as they should have. First time I was playing through the game, so sometimes I would just say my nunchuck would disconnect even though it was still connected, and then they just did not work properly. I'll just put it that.
But according to IGN, the increased power of the Joy-Cons should make the motion controls work better, so let's hope that's actually the case.
I always liked the motion control concept. I think some people are just really don't like it because you can't just hack and slash in Skyward Sword like you can in almost every other game. So I have never been a fan of hack and slash. I'm much more methodical and systematic. So even enemies you can just hack and slash to win, I would, especially in 2D games, I still try to take a more tactical approach, even if it's much more inefficient. Just because I think I don't know, hack and slash takes the fun out of it for me, but some people, they refuse to accept anything other than hack and slash. So Skyward Sword, they just blame the motion controls in the game, saying it's a bad game, just because the combat's not their take, they're not their fancy, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that was me with Age of Calamity, honestly. Like, it was a good game and I enjoyed it, but like just the ability, the fact that you could just like run into a crowd of like 50 bokoblins and then just like mow them all down.
Yeah,
it just is like what?
It's just everyone's too OP. Even characters that shouldn't be OP, like Zelda with her Sheikah Slate, like she's not a fight. Like that, I don't know. That's why Hyrule Warriors, just the original one, never appealed to me because you can have like Tingle or Agatha come in. Characters that aren't fighters just come in and tear down hordes of bokoblins and such. I don't know. Dynasty Warriors is not my type of game, but I bought Age of Calamity just because I wanted the story. Even if it was cheesy, I still enjoyed it.
Yeah. Honestly, same. I mean, I actually got the original Hyrule Warriors for Christmas, so yeah. I honestly like it more than Age of Calamity.
Really?
I don't know why.
Huh.
But
like the gameplay or the gameplay or the story?
I mean, I've only played through like 2 missions, but just the whole aspect of like holding the different like checkpoints or whatever, it worked better in Hyrule Warriors than it did in Age of Calamity.
Yeah, I can see that. I never really understood
thing.
the point of having the bases or whatever they're called, the forts in Age of Calamity. They don't matter.
I think the whole point, yeah, because like in Hyrule Warriors, the way it worked was like if the enemy was in charge, then it spawned enemies, and if you were in charge, it spawned your troops. But like in Age of Calamity, when you took an outpost, it just kind of sat there. They didn't actually produce troops for you or do anything. They just kind of stood in there and no enemies tried to attack it or whatever.
Yeah, even so, like the troops in Age of Calamity were pretty much absolutely useless. They'll just stand, the enemies and your troops will just stand there doing absolutely nothing. Occasionally they'll swing at each other, but it doesn't actually do damage to them. So...
I mean, your partners, like the main characters or whatever, they actually, like, did attack. I mean,
yeah.
I don't really know how much damage they did or if they were even able to take damage, but...
Because I know, they don't take damage whenever you're not playing them. I don't think they occasionally attack and it looks like they do something, but it's really not almost anything significant. And I know that ordinary Hylian soldiers, or Rito soldier, whoever you have, they didn't really ever do anything.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience playing that game.
Yep. Anyway, Skyward Sword, do you have anything else you'd like to talk about for the Skyward Sword remake?
Not particularly, unless there's anything else you wanted to add or just anything you wanted to say. I mean,
I don't think I have anything off the top of my head. I think you covered the pricing, and we covered just any extra features that they might be adding, because we have really no idea. They didn't give us any extra information to base anything off of. I think there's a pretty good chance that they will be adding some other types of mini games, like the custom dungeons in the Link's Awakening remake. I'd be surprised if we don't get any other kind of new mini game, because I think Skyward Sword was actually rushed a little bit.
One thing that actually kind of surprised me is the fact that there's like, I don't think there's a bomb rolling minigame, you know, like there's the bomb chew minigame and...
Oh, and Ocarina of Majora's Mask?
Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, you have the whole bomb rolling mechanic that works perfectly for like bowling balls or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Like, why was there nothing like that? I mean, you even had like a Minesweeper type minigame, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, the Minesweeper was fun. That was a good way to get rupees.
I was bad at it, but... Like, I know there is strategy to it. Like, you're supposed to, like, if you dig up like a small rupee, then like there's not a lot of bombs nearby. But if you dig up a big rupee, that means there is a lot.
Yeah,
of bombs.
I get out of that area.
But I don't know. It just I lost more rupees than I made.
Yeah, I mean, it took a couple tries to get the hang of it. I think I'm personally very bad at natural or normal Minesweeper, but after I got some practice at it, I think that game was just a infinite rupee mine after you got the hang of the game. You just have to give it a few tries if you have the rupees ahead of time.
Speaking of rupees, it took me like 300 rupees worth to hit the grand prize on the Fun Island.
Oh.
It took me like 300 rupees to get the grand prize, and then like you get it once and all of a sudden it doesn't matter how many tries you spent on it, you're going to make money.
Yeah.
Like if you hit all the loops in the grand prize, you're going to make money.
Yeah. I don't remember. Do you have to make the loops in order to get that heart piece?
Yeah, you have to get all the loops and then hit the grand prize for the heart piece.
Yeah, but that's also a pretty good money maker too. You don't even have to hit the jackpot to make money necessarily. You don't make too much if you don't, but it's still money in a mini game. Oh, but
yeah, I'm sure there's some way to like if you looked it up online, there's probably some guide to perfectly positioning yourself to hit the grand prize every time. But
yeah, there is a system. I think it's almost the same thing every time. But before we forget, I just did have one thing come to mind. So one issue I see with Skyward Sword is kind of like the Goddess Cube system. I mean, the Goddess Cube system was really cool and all. Don't get me wrong, but it was just the items you get from them. Like, half the items are just medallions you can get from Beetle, and half the time they're just big, like silver rupees, gold rupees, heart pieces, that kind of stuff. Like nothing super exciting, stuff you can get almost everywhere. It's kind of just stuff you do if you're trying to 100% complete the game. I think they could have a wider variety of types of items, maybe add in a couple different types of metals that weren't in there beforehand, or just kind of change up the types of items. Also, maybe like expanding the region of the sky. Maybe add in some extra islands and such, or just increase the range you can go flying out. Because if you think about it, the sky is pretty darn small in terms of like the region you can actually fly in the game. It's so much smaller than the Great Sea.
Also, maybe actually, you know what? Because Nayru mentioned his video about the speed sail in the Wind Waker that lets you go faster. What if there was something you could get, like maybe from a goddess chest or just from the bazaar or something, that you could put on your bird to make it fly faster?
I mean, that'd be nice. I mean, there's already the dashes, but I mean, yeah, it still takes time to. But
because it takes a fair bit of time, not as much as Wind Waker, but it still takes a fair bit of time to go places.
Yeah, that's the difference. Like Wind Waker, it could take you like 10 minutes to get across the map in real time just for the Wind Waker map. But in Skyward Sword, you can probably get across the entire sky in 60 seconds, because the region is so much smaller. I mean, sure, there's the tornadoes and very small hazards, but I think those are even less hazardous than the ones in Wind Waker, where you have the giant octos and other creatures. But that's my thing. I don't think they're going to expand the sky and redo the items from the Goddess Cube chests. I hope so. But yeah, like, because the economy in Skyward Sword was kind of poorly. Just that there's so many rupees. You don't really need to get the Goddess Cubes to get the rupees, but that's what they were. So I hope they fix that. Probably not. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if they give you like maybe 1 or 2 more slots in your adventure pouch, then like that would help a lot, because you could carry those medallions rather than just having to storm the item check every time.
Yeah, I did think that was a kind of a cool feature though, because there was just a scarce number of pouches. It made you have to strategize what you're going to carry with you at what times. It was kind of a pain whenever you wanted to swap them out there, to have to go all the way up to the item check and talk to Beatrice, who was not my favorite character by a long shot.
Yeah, honestly, the best part of that whole side quest was finally getting to talk to her dad and actually just say no.
I did not even know about that entire side quest at all during my first 3 playthroughs of the game, because I would always just shut her down instantly. I didn't even know that was a side quest until I started my YouTube channel and was doing research for my Link's Loves video, which I only started that series to try to copy Nintendo Black Crisis, because his Breath of the Wild Z-Link video and his analysis about Mifa and such, that's what made his channel grow so fast. So, I mean, it worked. I guess it's been working for me too. Those are my second and third most popular videos.
It definitely seemed like it worked.
Yeah, it's still fun, and people love it apparently, so I'm definitely going to keep that up. But yeah, I had no idea that was even a side quest until I made that video.
And well, that was basically it. So, I hope you really enjoyed the video, and if you did, then be sure to like and subscribe. I'll put a link to Zeldom's channel down in the description, so you should totally check him out. He's got a great channel. I really enjoyed doing this, so I'll probably make more content of this type in the future, so keep an eye out for that. That's all I have for today though, so until next time, I'm TruthForce, and I'm out.